Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered if she still thinks about you? Late at night, when the world quiets down and she's alone with her thoughts, do you ever cross her mind? I'll tell you something that most men don't realize. You do. More than she'll ever admit. More than you probably imagine. Because while she may not text you, while she may not comment, like, or show any signs that you're still part of her life, you haven't disappeared from her emotional world, that you're not just a memory. You're a mark, a quiet, lingering presence that still lives in the corners of her everyday thoughts. The one she doesn't talk about, not even with her closest friends. Here's where many men get it wrong. We often think that emotional connection is about what we see. If she's not reaching out, if she's not calling, if she's not saying, "I miss you," then she must have moved on, right? But with women, it doesn't always work that way. See, emotional attachment, real emotional connection, isn't always loud. It's not always visible. It doesn't always show up in messages or grand gestures. Sometimes it's silent. And in that silence, she still remembers how you made her feel. Not what you said, not what you bought her, but how she felt when she was around you. That one moment when she felt truly seen. That evening when she could finally be vulnerable and didn't feel judged. That subtle way you made her feel safe, emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. Those aren't feelings that just vanish because you stop talking. Those are emotional imprints, and they're much more powerful than we think. You see, most men expect signs that she's still attached, still thinking about them. But women process emotions differently. While some express them outwardly, others absorb them inward, quietly carrying them long after the relationship ends. While it may look like she's fine, like she's moved on, deep down, there are moments, random, quiet moments, where she feels a soft ache in her chest and your name crosses her mind without warning. And no, it doesn't mean she's coming back. It doesn't mean she's not moving forward, but it does mean you mattered. And that emotional presence, that impact, still lives inside her, even if she never says a word about it.so. If you've been doubting your worth because of her silence. If you've been wondering if you ever meant anything because she didn't say goodbye with fireworks. Remember this, silence isn't always disconnection. Sometimes it's memory, sometimes it's emotion, and sometimes it's still love, just unspoken. This is only the beginning. Let's go deeper. You know what's interesting? Most guys think that if she's not calling, texting, or commenting on their posts, she must have moved on. But here's the truth that often gets missed. Emotional investment doesn't always make noise. In fact, the deepest emotional connections are often silent. They don't show up as heart emojis or daily check-ins. They live in the quiet corners of her heart, the one she rarely lets anyone see. Because what she remembers, what truly lingers, isn't your words, your gifts, or even your physical presence. That's how you made her feel. Did she feel safe when she was with you? Did she feel like you actually saw her? Not just her appearance, but her essence? Did you give her space to just be, without needing to impress or perform? If the answer is yes, then trust me, those moments didn't disappear when the relationship ended. And here's something most men underestimate. Women hold on to emotional memory differently. They don't always express it in ways you'd expect. You might think she never said anything, so maybe it didn't mean much. But what you don't see is the way she carries it inside her. Quietly, intimately, for a long time. Think back. Maybe you remembered something small she said weeks ago and brought it up at just the right moment. Maybe you sat beside her during a tough time and didn't try to fix anything. You just stayed. Or maybe it was the way you listened without interrupting and made her feel like her voice actually mattered. Those moments, they were everything. Because in a world that often expects women to perform emotionally, to be strong, fun, put together, when you gave her a space where she didn't have to be anything but herself, that was rare. That was healing. And that, my friend, is unforgettable. See, emotional security isn't created through grand gestures. It's built in the quiet, in the consistent, in the way you looked at her when she was exhausted and still made her feel beautiful. In the way you remembered her fears, her quirks, her passions. Not because you were trying to impress her, but because you genuinely cared. And when you gave her that, you created something she'll carry with her long after your last conversation. She might not tell anyone. She might even try to bury it. But inside, she knows you made her feel safe. You made her feel seen. And in today's world, that is one of the rarest gifts a man can give it. Don't judge your impact based on the silence that followed. Because if you created emotional sanctuary for her, even briefly, you left something behind that can't be erased by distance, distraction, or time. That's the quiet power of emotional investment. It's not loud. It's not flashy, but it lasts. We live in a world that constantly tells us to go big or go home. That if you want to make someone remember you, you need to do something dramatic. Big flowers, surprise jetaway, flashy gifts, over-the-top declarations. And sure, those things have their place. But when it comes to leaving a real, lasting impression on a woman's heart, it's not the grand gestures she remembers. It's the small ones. It's the way your voice softened when she was tired. The way you remembered something she said weeks ago. Not because it was important to you, but because it clearly mattered to her. It's how you didn't interrupt when she was emotional. How you stayed beside her quietly, just being there without trying to fix anything. Those moments, the ones that feel ordinary to you, might be the ones she replays at night when the world goes quiet. Because in those small, consistent gestures, she didn't feel impressed. She felt safe. That's the thing most men overlook. Emotional safety isn't built in the loud, highlight reel moments. It's built in the stillness, the nuance, the everyday. And here's what's even more powerful. Those small moments become emotional benchmarks. They become a standard she subconsciously holds other men to, not because she's comparing out of spite, but because you left a reference point of how she wants to feel in a relationship. It's not about how expensive her dinner date was. It's about how present you were while she talked. It's not about how many compliments you gave. It's about the moment you looked at her and she knew you actually meant it. It's not about saying, "You're beautiful." It's about how you notice the little things, like the way she lights up when she talks about something she loves. These aren't just gestures, they're experiences. And experiences shape emotions. And emotions, they last. You see, a woman may forget what you said. She might even forget what you did. But she will not forget how you made her feel in those little moments when no one else was paying attention. That I've heard countless women say, "It was the way he listened when I was rambling. The way he didn't pull away when I cried. The way he made me feel like I mattered, even when I was quiet." That's what sticks at us. Don't fall for the lie that you need to be flashy or loud to be unforgettable. Instead, lean into the quiet, the real, the human. Be the man who listens, who sees, who stays, because those moments, they become part of her emotional DNA. And long after the relationship ends, long after you've stopped talking, that feeling remains, not in the headlines of her life, but in the footnotes that actually shaped her. And that is where you live on. Let's talk about silence. Because silence, when it comes to relationships, is often misunderstood. Most men assume that if she's quiet, if she's not reaching out, not responding, not showing affection, that must mean it's over. That she's done, disconnected, moving on. But let me offer you another perspective. Sometimes silence isn't closure, it's reflection. You may be out of sight, but you are not out of her emotional world. In fact, your silence, especially if you once made her feel safe, understood, and emotionally connected, can echo louder than anything you could say right now. Here's why. When a woman has felt something real, and that connection suddenly goes quiet, her mind doesn't just move on. It starts working. She replays your last conversations. She wonders what you meant when you said that thing. She notices the tone in your last message. She fills in the blanks you left behind with her own questions. Did he stop caring? Was I not enough? Was any of it real? And it's not because she's weak or overdramatic. It's because when emotional investment is involved, the brain doesn't just let go because the phone stops buzzing to hear something to understand. Your calm withdrawal isn't meaningless. It's impactful, especially if you left with quiet dignity, without trying to prove anything, without begging or pleading or pointing fingers. That kind of presence, even in absence, creates space. And in that space, she starts a process. Not just what happened, but how it felt. Maybe she thought she was over it. Maybe she's told herself 100 times that you don't matter anymore. But now she's noticing the silence. And not because it's loud, but because it used to be filled with something that mattered. And now that it's gone, it feels like a void. You see, silence creates room for reflection, and reflection reveals truth, especially emotional truth. And sometimes, that's when she realizes the depth of what she felt. Not in the middle of the chaos, but in the quiet afterward. That's the irony of emotional connection. It often makes the biggest impact after you're gone. But listen carefully, this isn't about playing games. It's not about ghosting to get a reaction or manipulating someone's emotions, that it's about emotional maturity. It's about knowing your value enough to not chase. To understand that your silence, when rooted in self-respect, can say, I felt something too, but I don't have to prove it to you. I already lived it. So if you're wondering if your silence means anything, if she even notices that you've stepped back, the answer is yes. Not because she texts you, not because she calls, but because your presence once created meaning, and your absence now carries weight. Sometimes silence isn't just what's missing. Sometimes it's the loudest thing she hears. From the outside looking in, it might seem like she's doing just fine. She's smiling in photos, going out with friends, maybe even dating someone new. Her social media looks bright, full, active. It's easy to assume she's moved on, and maybe she wants you to believe that too. But here's the truth most people never talk about. Moving on doesn't always mean moving past. Sometimes what you're seeing is not healing, it's survival. Sometimes those smiles are stitched together with effort. And the new dates? Just distractions from the emotional echoes she hasn't quite figured out how to quiet yet. See, when a woman has felt something real, when she's connected emotionally, mentally, maybe even spiritually, that connection doesn't just disappear because the relationship ended. It lingers, quietly, invisibly, and sometimes relentlessly. She might tell herself she's over it. She might even believe it for a while. But then, out of nowhere, a song comes on. A scent drifts through the air. A place you used to go together flashes by her car window. And suddenly, you're back. Not as a thought, as a feeling. That's the part most men don't see. They see the updates, the activity, the new guy, and they think, wow, I must not have mattered. But what they're missing is that emotional memory doesn't play by logical rules. It doesn't get deleted like a contact or swiped away like a photo. It gets stored in the parts of the heart we don't always control. Those triggers, they don't ask for permission. They just show up. And when they do, they can send her right back to the emotion, not the event, but the feeling she had when she was with you. And no, that doesn't mean she's going to come running back. It doesn't mean she regrets everything, but it does mean something important. You left a mark. You see, we've been taught to equate movement with healing. If someone is dating again, they must be fine. If they're smiling, they must be over it. But what if, just what if, she's not moving on, she's just pushing forward? There's a big difference. Moving on is clean, it's closure. But pushing forward, that's survival mode. That's trying to live above the weight of emotions that haven't yet found their place. And here's something powerful to remember. If you made her feel something genuine, then part of her emotional memory will always carry your name. Not as baggage, not as regret, but as a reminder of what real once felt like. If you've ever looked at her life and wondered, did I really matter? The answer might not be found in her posts, or in the guy she's with now, or in the way she walks past you like nothing happened. The answer lives in the quiet moments, in the memories she doesn't talk about, in the feelings she can't quite explain. and in the truth that sometimes the deepest connections aren't erased. They're just hidden behind a smile. Here's something you may not realize. Even if she never texts you again, even if she never brings up your name, even if she's moved on with someone else, you might still be her emotional benchmark. Now, what does that mean? It means you became the standard, the internal measuring stick by which she unconsciously compares every connection that comes after you. Not because you were perfect, not because the relationship was flawless, but because you made her feel something real. And that kind of feeling doesn't just vanish when life moves forward at IT sticks. You see, emotional impact doesn't always look like a dramatic reunion or a surprise message out of the blue. Sometimes it looks like her sitting across from someone new, nodding politely, but something inside her quietly whispers, "He doesn't really see me the way he did. He doesn't listen like he did. He doesn't make me feel that same calm, that same safety." And she might never say that out loud. Not to her friends, not to the guy she's dating, maybe not even to herself. But the comparison is there, silently, instinctively. Because when someone has touched your soul, you don't forget the shape of that feeling. Even if you forget the words, the dates, or the details, that's what emotional imprint really is. It's not just memory, it's emotional residue. It's the echo of how someone made you feel when the world wasn't watching. And here's the thing, you didn't have to try hard to become that benchmark. You just had to be present. You had to care in a way that was real. You had to see her, hear her, stay steady when she needed someone who wouldn't flinch at her vulnerability. You may not be in her photos anymore, but you're in the emotional fabric of how she now defines connection. Because once a woman has experienced being truly seen, being genuinely valued, she can't just pretend she never did. That feeling becomes part of her. And whether she's aware of it or not, it follows her. And no, this doesn't mean she'll come back. It doesn't mean she'll text you late at night with some poetic revelation. Sometimes pride, timing, or life just moves things in different directions. But it does mean this. You left something behind that can't be replaced with convenience or charm.so. If you've been questioning whether you mattered, if you've been wondering whether you were just a chapter in her life, maybe you weren't a chapter. Maybe you were the theme. And while your name might not show up in her call log anymore, it lives in something deeper, in the quiet comparison she makes, in the emotional reflexes she doesn't even realize are tied to you. That's not just memory. That's impact. That's legacy that you're not trying to honor. You're not trying to win. But knowing you were real enough to be remembered this way, that's something no one could take away. Let's talk about what happens next that you felt the silence. You've questioned your impact. You've replayed the moments, the messages, the what-ifs. And maybe you're still wondering if she ever truly cared, if she still thinks about you, if she'll ever come back. But here's the truth no one tells you. This moment isn't about her anymore. It's about you, because the most powerful thing you can do now isn't chase. It's evolve. You see, your value is never meant to be proven through her validation. It's not defined by whether she reaches out again or sees your worth now. It's defined by how you carry yourself, especially in the quiet, especially when no one's watching. So the question is, what kind of man do you want to be remembered as? The one who begged for closure? The one who let heartbreak unravel his identity? Or the one who took the pain and turned it into power? This is your opportunity to build something bigger than a memory, to build a life so full, so grounded in purpose and presence that you don't need anyone to see it because you feel it. You don't grow by performing. You grow by aligning. You become the man who wakes up with intention, who sharpens his vision, who doesn't drown in silence. He uses it as fuel because healing isn't about moving on fast. It's about moving forward, right? It's about becoming the man who no longer asks, "Does she still think about me?" and instead starts asking, "What kind of impact am I making in the world today?" And here's the magic of it all. When you stop trying to be remembered, when you stop trying to impress, when you stop waiting for closure and start creating clarity, something shifts. You become unforgettable. not because you're loud or flashy or emotionally dramatic, but because you're anchored, because you're whole, because you've turned the quiet into your classroom and your pain into your purpose. That's the kind of man who leaves a mark. That's the man she remembers, even if she never says a word, even if she never comes back. Because here's the truth. Emotional memory responds to energy, not effort. It responds to presence, not pressure. So grow. Build. Led yourself, not to show her what she lost, but to remind yourself what you are always capable of becoming. Because that version of you, the version that stands strong without needing to be seen, that man is rare. And rare is unforgettable. So ask yourself today, am I becoming the man I want her or anyone to remember? And if the answer isn't yes yet, start now. Because this isn't about her memory anymore. This is about your legacy. So after everything we've talked about, the silence, the memories, the emotional imprint, the healing, there's one truth that quietly rises above it all. Emotional depth leaves a deeper mark than any grand gesture ever could. You don't have to be the loudest voice in the room. You don't have to show up with roses, fireworks, or dramatic declarations. Sometimes it's your stillness that speaks the loudest. Sometimes it's your presence, quiet, consistent, unwavering, that she remembers long after the noise has faded. Because real connection isn't built in highlight reels. It's built in the in-between, in the way you listen when no one else did, and how you made her feel when she wasn't trying to be anything but herself, and even when she seems like she's moved on, laughing, posting, living. Don't be fooled by the surface. Emotion doesn't work on a schedule. It doesn't move in straight lines. It lingers. It returns in waves. It surprises her at 2 a.m. when a song plays or when silence fills a space she once shared with you. That's the power of real emotional presence. It becomes part of her world, not as noise, but as a feeling she can't quite explain and can't quite forget. And if you've shown up with calm strength, not trying to convince, not trying to chase, but simply being real, then trust me, you are still there. Not in her inbox, maybe, but in the way she reconsiders what real should feel like. You don't need to prove anything now. You don't need to be louder, flashier, more impressive. What you need is to keep growing. Keep becoming the man who is remembered for his energy, not his ego. The man who held emotional ground when others scattered. The man whose silence wasn't cold. It was sacred, because when you carry that kind of energy, calm, grounded, whole, you don't just leave a memory. You leave a legacy. If there's one question I'll leave you with, it's this. Who do you want to be remembered as? Not just in her mind, but in your own heart. Not just for what you gave to others, but for what you discovered in yourself. Because the truth is, when you become a man of quiet strength, emotional clarity, and deep purpose, you don't chase remembrance. You become unforgettable.